that lives the house behind us. Oh my God, yes.
Your dad was eager to have you in school.
I don't know if my mother tell him, I don't know.
Hell, did you know she had to go to St. Catherine? Went to St. Catherine? She went to Brooklyn.
Oh, they sent you away?
Yes.
I was the only one in the house who went because I didn't.
Right over, he's coming right over, straight across. Get it on the videotape.
Grandpa! Grandpa!
Grandpa!
Grandpa!
Grandpa!
Woo!
He's gonna, yeah, son, I told him to tip the wings.
Love you, Grandpa!
Excuse me.
No, it's just off here.
Everybody's attention. Everybody's attention. Ready to start. You guys ready? Carol, sit down. Carol, we're ready to go.
Carol!
Carol! Carol!
So this is, so this is the deal before I start. I got something great. So, I'm not just, my job is just, talking to people one-on-one. So anyway, I want to start my words today by saying, with a grateful heart, I'm going to celebrate my father, Frederick Valentine. Grateful to have both the parents I have, Fred and Laura. Grateful to my brothers and sisters who shared them with me. Stephen, Kenny, Carol, and Diane. Fred and Laura were both devoted to us and to our kids. Their lives and their legacy are testament to this. Nothing was more important to either of them than each of us. But I want to talk to you about my father as a man. He left his imprint on each of us. He was the voice that influenced me to become a comic. So really, thanks a lot, Dad, for my last 40 years working in a dark room alone for charts of letters and numbers. I wonder how you got in the way. All right. And I need to tell you all that at the very end, he held back death until all 5 of his children say our final words. Because of COVID, I was delayed going to Florida to see him. So I basically was the last one. Proud to say the words, I love you, Dad. He heard my words. I am so grateful for that. Now, in celebration of his life, I can say, thank you, Dad. I will forever be grateful. I will forever be your grateful son. I haven't done a quarter of the things my father did in his life. Traveled a lot for work, the Lions Club, all the civic work he did. But no matter where he went, what event he attended, or whatever venue it was, he would always say the words to describe, especially special events where he was. This is first class. But all the time, he used these words. You never picked up the bill. This time, Dad, you're finally picking up the tab. Thank you, Dad.
Okay. It's going to be hard to follow Freddie, and it's going to be hard to beat before Kenny, but I'm going to try. And this is typed so small, I didn't type it. It would have been 30 pages, and I can't see anymore. Thank you, I'm Thomas' brother. So I definitely have to very much, and we're so grateful to have this day today. Thank you to Stephen. Stephen.
Yeah.
He also orchestrated Brett's 19th party in a row this year, and it was flawless. So hats off to Stephen. So I'm giving you that. So I wanted to start out and just say that I'm reading a very personal letter today. It was a letter written to Brett that I'm sharing with everyone here because of COVID. He didn't have a graduation, prom, all of that, class of 2020. And every summer we had a tradition where Dad would come up to Massachusetts, and it was very important to him to visit every one of his kids and go to their homes. The last few years he could only stay at our house, but he would never miss Brent's birthday party every year. I will just share that at 98 and a half, Dad actually sent this letter to Brett, and he addressed this. So when it's 98 and a half, you have to think about someone and how sharp his mind was. And that's the statement I want to make today. So I want to read a letter if I can read it because it's not my typing and it's very small. So this was the first year that Dad, for the first time ever, when Brett turned 18 for his graduation, and Dad missed his party. He just couldn't feel like he did on a plane. So this is to Brett. Grandson Brett, I am dictating, and I have to write it because Dad always dictated. Grandson Brett, I am dictating the following, remembering as much as possible with Sabrina, my wonderful aide. My daughter, her husband, and my baby grandson arrived. These are memories that he has in mind. My daughter, my husband, her husband, and my baby grandson arrived in Naples, and they decided to go out for the evening and have me babysit. So Brett was. They left, and 2 hours later, he forgot we went to Nickelbox to get him ribs. They left, and 2 hours later, I heard my grandson crying, and Dad was left all alone with Brett. I went into the bedroom, and he made a huge mess. I cleaned him up and changed his diaper, which I don't think I've done before, which is true. He probably never did with 5 kids. And after he was clean, he fell asleep. My fault, I forgot to leave wipes, so he literally had a pile of diapers, and that was how he did it. My daughter was able to have my baby grandson be part of the Fort Model State in New York. His first job, he appeared on a book cover. A book was written by Ann Leary, and her husband was a famous major TV actor, Dennis Leary. I went to the book signing in New York. I stood in line, and when I reached Ann Leary, I asked her to sign the book, and I told her I was his grandpa, and she said, "Your grandson peed on me while I was holding him." That's all she said, and he did. While you were a baby, Brett, Grandma would call you her sunshine boy. Brett was 2 years old when Mom passed away, and I called you Skinny Minnie because you look at you today. You're 6'2", 6'3", and 190 pounds. My daughter arranged a surprise birthday party for her mother and her friends. Brett was a baby who sat at the table and was a perfectly quiet and friendly baby. Must take after me. Definitely not. This was my wife's last birthday. One day I was riding in the car with my daughter. My grandson was still young, but nevertheless, he accidentally peed on me in the car. When he was small, I used to take him to the Naples Depot and let him ride the mini train with Grandpa. When my grandson visited me, we used to have egg rolls at Easter every year, and he did this through age 98, and he would always beat Grandpa. One time in New York City, I visited his 4th grade class, and I spoke to the class, Grandpa, about what makes an airplane fly. Another time in New York, the teacher took the class to the Empire State Building and asked me to go. She explained everything about the Empire State Building, but when she got through, I told her she forgot one thing. She asked, what was it? And I said that during World War II, a B-52 bomber crashed into the Empire State Building, and she was amazed. She told the class she didn't know about it, but she said, I will tell all my students in the future. Thank you for pointing that out. When you visited me in Naples, we used to play mini golf. We had a lot of fun. I bought you your first fishing pole. We went fishing and had no luck. Another time in New York, we went through the fabulous Bronx Zoo watching the gorillas that were amazing. This is funny. Many times we played games, cards, Monopoly, and other games like that. But one time we played checkers, and you had the Yankees checkers, and I had the Red Sox checkers. Being a New Yorker, he wanted to win, but I won. That was the first time he was ever mad, and I believe we never played checkers again. And that's true. Another time in New York, I believe you were 10 years old and you were going to modeling, and I was invited to watch the procedure. It's interesting that Dad called it a procedure, which was most interesting. They had a large trailer that had a lounge area for a place for food and a makeup area. This particular time, they had a girl your age, very pretty. Of course, that was like at 10 years old. And then the photographer and their assistants took you out in New York City around buildings and took all types of photos. It was most interesting. However, throughout your modeling, you appeared in many leading magazines and newspapers until you stopped taking involved in baseball. While in Naples, I guess you were 10 years old and you stood up in front of your mother's memorial at the Naples Women's Club in front of 100 women and in honor of your grandmother. You spoke to the women and did a remarkable job. When you were in the Hamptons in your home in New York, while in your swimming pool, we used to have a lot of fun playing basketball. I would sit on the edge of the pool, and this is in his 90s, and you would be out of the pool, and you teamed up with your dad, and I teamed up with your daughter, and we had a lot of fun, and Carol and I always won. You started playing sports when you were very young. You played kickboxing, you were fantastic, but you played basketball, and I thought you were very good, but it wasn't meant to be. You started playing baseball when you were very small, and you played Little League, and you were a star. One game I watched that you were so amazing that I cried a little bit. And again, Dad was going to all of these travel baseball games every summer throughout the Hamptons until 1 a.m. some of these games, and he was 97 years old. He said, I cried a little bit, I was so proud of you. Unfortunately, in your junior year, you had injuries that prevented you from playing. And also in your senior years, Cash, and the coronavirus prevented you from playing at all. Many times, because of my problems walking, you helped me, including with a wheelchair, especially at the World Trade Tower Museum. I'm disappointed due to my physical problems that I'm going to miss your 18th birthday, but through the years, they have been great fun, especially when your friends would push a piece of cake in your face. Now, as you're getting ready for college this last summer, I know you would do an exceptional job, and I wish you success in your studies in baseball. It's going to be lonely for a while without your mother and father. Not really. He's so happy to be free from his mother. Your mother will keep me posted on your progress. It's only 3 more sentences, but it's poignant. I'm very proud of you. You're a fine 18-year-old man, and I love you very much. If you hit a home run in college, you will receive $100 from Grandpa. And he did last October, and Grandpa wrote the check for $100. Everybody that knows my father, it says P.S. to Brett. Don't forget all the talks and advice I have given you. So Brett was the last grandchild, and Brett sat with Grandpa many times to listen to the advice. And so, Dad, I'm going to tell you today is for you and for Mom, and this is your day that we're all going to listen to you. So whatever signs you send us today, this is your party, your celebration. We love you. 50, 20 years married. You're going to be with each other forever. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Go notes. My dad had a lot of really unique expressions that he'd like to throw at us all the time. I'm going to share a few of them with you here today. The one that a couple of them I really like, and a couple that I really like to get to that. But how about we ever sat down and we started telling the story? We've all experienced that. You get 10 minutes into it and you say, now, Kenny, to make a long story short, I look at him and say, come on, Dad. There's no such thing as a short story from you. So that was BS. And I love the one called Half-Ass. So he did a job that wasn't up to his capabilities, or an event that wasn't up to his capabilities. It wasn't for him. If we were ever involved in a half-ass situation, we had to stay around until first class, which was fine, because, you know, it's like, really life, we are the way we are. And of course, we heard first class already, first class event, first class people, first class so. So today, when I look around, I see a first class event, first class people who half-ass snuck in. You know who you are. Another one that really got Freddie, Stephen, and I, probably my sisters too, was when we did our chores, which was on a regular basis every weekend. Go through the day, just when we thought we were finished, come out and say, Kenny, Freddie, Stephen, Carol, Diane, I've got one last job. And I used to drive us crazy. But there's two that I really liked. I'm going to share some of my own personal experiences with some of these two that I'm going to mention right now. And the first one was, older you get, the stupider you get. And that was you. When we messed up, that's what we had to hear. Now from the outside, like, that's really cool. Hell no. To me, that's a badge of honor. Badge of honor to get that thrown at me. And I earned a lot of badges. I'm just going to tell you about three of them at different stages of my life. The first time I think I heard it from him, I was maybe 8 years old. All of us were on a summer vacation, Vermont, Canadian border. And the cottage we were at was on a lake. We had a token rowboat that always came with this vacation. So one fine morning, we're out there, Freddie, Stephen, my dad, and I, for our fishing experience early in the morning. Well, catch some bass fishing. So I have to get out there and hang it up. My dad started distributing the fishing poles. I noticed my brother, Freddie, and Stephen, and my dad all had these nice poles you could cast out into the water. He had the youngest son, we stopped whatever was left over. So here I got with one of these little red poles with a straight line. And I'm like, okay. So as the day went on, they're all casting out the fish, and I'm sitting there with this little pole with a line that just goes straight down. So I was kind of like watching them do their thing. Cool. So anyway, I got frustrated. I gotta try casting. I'm gonna go out and cast out. So here we go. Pull my line back. All of a sudden, I hear a scream in the back of the boat. My hook caught my dad right in the neck. So I hear a scream. And Kenny! And here's where I want you to participate. The older you get, the stupider you get. So when I yell Kenny, I want you all to yell back to me. The older you get, the stupider you get. So we yell Kenny! The older you get, the stupider you get. Absolutely. Event number 2. Every Christmas Eve, we went to our grandmother's house on my mom's mother. Great Italian feast. And eventually we had presents that we could open up later in that night. But for me, it wasn't the presents. It was the homemade wine that my grandfather made. He helped make them, every summer and fall in his basement. He had a wine cellar. So we made that wine. Sure enough, we got to sample that every Christmas Eve. The problem was, I was about 12 years old. 12 years old at the time. We would get maybe something this much, and my parents would cut it with water. It used to drive us crazy that they cut the wine with water. I want to taste the real thing. So anyway, every year my dad would bring home these 5-gallon glass jugs of this red gold that he called it, red wine. I don't know where he hid it in the house, but he brought it home. But one night when my sisters and I were doing hide and seek in the basement, I was looking for a place to hide, opened up the workbench, the door underneath the workbench, and there it was. 5 gallons of this red gold. So you know what went through my mind. So I'm thinking, all right, next time my parents go out, I'm going to grab myself a glass and get down in that basement and pour myself a glass of wine without being diluted with water. I want to taste the red gold. my excitement in doing that when I lifted up that 5-gallon red gold all over the basement floor, broke all over. So what happened later was, as soon as my dad figured out, I'm going to Kenny first on this one. I didn't get 2 words out of trying to defend myself when he yelled, Kenny! Come on! He said, Kenny! So now I'm an adult. I'm in my late 20s, early 30s. They're down in Naples, Florida now. And I go down and visit, and it's still, I gotta do chores on Saturday. Nothing's changed. And so I'm going through the whole process of that. And sure enough, I'm ready to come in, and now I want a cold beer. So, Dad, I'm done. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. No. And I've got one last job. One last job. I need you to go up on the roof and sweep off all the debris off the roof. Branches and needles and that. And stuff. It's like, all right, Dad. Get the ladder, go up to the roof, and it's a solid oak type of roofing. And I'm sweeping everything off. There's one little partition over our patio, which wasn't just sturdy roofing. It was this fiberglass thick covering. But in my zeal to do a first-class job on my last job of the day, I wanted to get the needles off this fiberglass. And I was able to push the broom, get it almost to the end. I just couldn't quite get there. So what did I do? Stepped on this, went right through the roof with the broom up in the air, laid it on my ass on the patio floor. My dad was in the next room on his Archie bucket chair watching TV. He heard the commotion. He leaned over, looked at me, shook his head, and just said, Kenny, Absolutely. I heard all of that. Yes, so that was one saying that I cherished. The other one was whenever he did accomplish something that was just truly amazing to me, I would always question, Dad, how did you pull this off? He would just look, give me a wink, and say, it's just good old Dad. Case in point, 1970. The Boston Bruins were king of Boston at that time. They haven't won a Stanley Cup in over 30 years. And here they were, Bobby Orr, Phyllis Mazzillo, Jerry Cheese, the whole gang. They owned the town. That getting a ticket to a Bruins game, you couldn't even sell your firstborn and get one back in those days. So here we are, they're in the Stanley Cup Finals. 3-0 against the St. Louis Blues. We're about to clinch in the 4th game. This was Mother's Day, 1970. And as usual, it was on a Sunday. As usual, we were all going to church with my mother. At the end of church, the carrot was, we always had a really great meal on Sunday afternoon. And my dad never missed one of those ever. But this particular day, when we got home, my dad was not there. Where's Dad? Where's Dad? My mom couldn't even tell us. I don't know how he got it, but he happened to be at this game where the Bruins clinched the Stanley Cup Finals, and that historic picture that's on every bar in Boston where Bobby Orr skated in overtime, skated the length of the ice, passed it to Derek Sanderson, back of the net, right back to Bobby Orr as he flew through the air, scored that winning goal. And that's all over Boston. There's a statue of the TV guy with this, and my dad was there. When he got home, Dad, how did you manage that? He just said, Kenny? That's easy to say, just good old Dad. Sorry. Just good old Dad. He would wink, smile, and say, Kenny? Is good old Dad. What's this old good old Dad? 5 years later, 1975, Red Sox, Cincinnati Reds. Greatest World Series. Yes, no, greatest World Series ever. And within that greatest World Series ever, this is Game 6. Sox are down 3-2 in games. And who knows what Game 6 was? Anyone knows that. That's all always being showcased. That famous day in X-rays when Carlton Fisk went up and hit that home run. Right? Left field. Red Sox win. Red Sox win. I was a freshman in college. And I had no idea that my dad was sitting 5 rows up behind the Red Sox dugout for that game. I come home on Thanksgiving and he tells me that. I just look at him and said, Dad, how did you manage that? Just good old Dad. You're way off fuel. He just winked, he smiled, he said, just good old Dad. My last one, this was, we used to go to church religiously with my mom, all of us. Drag us to church every Sunday, against all our objections. She'd drag us to church, but my dad, for some reason, had an exemption. He never knew what it was, but he never had to come with us, right? And we used to complain all the time about why doesn't he have to go? But he did go twice a year, Christmas and Easter. It just so happened that the Monsignor of our parish would show up twice a year to do mass at the same mass we went to, standing at the steps of St. Catherine's, and up would walk my dad, and the rest of us coming with him. And what did Monsignor do? He greeted like he was like, he'd been here the last 51 Sundays. He took a big hug, and the rest of us walked by, really took us a nod. This isn't fair. Why is he getting this attention? He hasn't been here all year. So after mass, we come down in the car. I say, Dad, this is BS. We're there religiously every Sunday. You show up once, and Monsignor treats you like you're the Pope. He just looked, smiled, winked, and said, just good old Dad. Just good old Dad. I got that one right. So anyway, people, my dad in his 99 years was a heck of a lot to a lot of people. The experiences were just too numerous to name here. People, friends of mine, after he's passed, they come to me and they say, what is one thing you're going to remember about your dad? They say, despite all his accomplishments, despite how many people swore by him, but despite all the people that swore by him, I'll always remember him as nothing more and nothing less than just a good old man.
One thing I want to add to that, what you don't know is when he went to that 6th game with the Red Sox, you know who was sitting right in front of him? Bobby Orr.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just good old Dad.
Just good old Dad. So listen, I'm going to be a little bit funny and a little more serious. But listen, from birth, I was so damn lucky. There are important choices that you navigate through life. But the big ones, you have no control over, like where you were born, when you were born, and most importantly, who your parents are. The next important tier are all the family members, as aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews. There's no question I won the mega lottery. So thank you all for being here for the celebration of my dad. Now, there's 2 guests here today that I would like to mention. They knew each of those Valentines from the get-go, way back in the 50s and 60s. The legendary Miss Floyd. Sounds like a scandalous Netflix series. She made it such a magical fairy tale experience for each one of us. One could do no wrong back then. She was like Julie Andrews playing both Mary Poppins and Maria in The Sound of Music. Years later, after my graduation from the School of Architects, the president of the college asked me, Stephen, so what was the most important part of my educational experience? Without hesitation, immediately I said that Fran had brought me back to my kindergarten, meaning that all things were still possible again. I was back being a dreamer. So thank you, Miss Floyd. I realized how precious those moments were in order to put everything in perspective later in life. Now, Ernie Patchkowski. Right over here, if you don't recognize him. Our neighbor, my childhood best buddy, is here. As boys, we often emulate my dad. We would both be tech sergeants wearing our dad's field jackets, fighting battles with an imaginary enemy. Remember, Ernie? As Lockheed constellations would fly above, pretending you were dropping bombs.
Nobody ever invaded Norton Drive.
And Ernie thought of my dad as a second father, as I did as his. I hadn't realized until recently that Ernie's dad and my dad went to school together at the Boston Trade School. Back then, political correctness was viewed inversely. It was a sport how much you could poke fun of each other's ancestors. And my being Italian and Ernie being Polish, we were really easy targets. So Ernie, the spirit of the good old days, I never forgot this moment. Kielbasa might have been one of the specialties for Patchkowski. But one time I was invited to dinner, it was Polish spaghetti night. And being Italian, I had to graciously pretend enjoying a plate of plate pasta with a ketchup bottle on the table. Every time I watch that final scene in the movie Goodfellas, I only think of you.
Only good luck with the Sunday nights at Valentine's with some pizza, buddy. Holiday pizza. Square pizza.
That's right.
Yeah, I ordered square pizza. It was so good.
Only 4 quarters for 5 children.
Yeah, I know. It was only 4 then, I think, at the early beginning. So, what happens in the sequence of life and death was entirely wrong, but instead experienced in reverse. According to George Carlin, this is how it would look. So, in my next life, I want to live in my life completely backwards. You start out dead, all right, and you get out of the way. You then wake up in an old people's home, feeling better every day. You get kicked out for being too healthy. Go collect your pension, and then you start work. You get a gold watch at a party on your first day. You work 40 years until you're young enough to enjoy your retirement. You party, you drink alcohol, you're generally promiscuous, and then you're ready for high school. You then go to primary school, you become a kid, you play, you have no responsibilities, you become a baby until you're born, and then you spend your last 9 months floating in a luxurious spa-like conditions with central heating and a room service on tap. Larger quarters seem to surround you every day, and then viola, you finish off as an orgasm. So this leads me to mothers. Now, I might be objectifying mothers, but I've always believed that mothers were the greatest invention of all time, where dads simply make sure that that invention is mechanically well maintained, happy, and safe. As Mom said at our 50th anniversary party, I'm the producer, Fred is the director. When we had a quiz contest for my mother and father some years ago, the final secret question bonus was, what month were each of their children born? Of course, my mother wrote down the exact date and time. Dad couldn't even guess the months. Which led me to believe, could it be that maybe my father isn't really my father? Further evidence of that theory was confirmed when I asked my mother a few years later, why do we look so different? She wittily replied, I thought of somebody else each time. So who knows? We could be the creation of my mother's fantasy. Jimmy Stewart and Cary Grant. Oh my God. So this celebration today is not only for my dad, but it's also my remarkable mother who made it work for all of us. Together they created a wonderful life for themselves, their children, and all those that knew them. And Dad and Mom had a goal. It was for all their children to become college graduates. You have to put this in perspective. In the 1950s, less than 4%, it's actually 3.6% of high school graduates even went on to higher education. So attending college was still a luxury for most, that few could even afford but made possible in those days by making lifelong sacrifices. So both mom and dad set their priorities to make their dream a reality for each one of us, no matter what it took. And I'm forever grateful to be part of their dream. So here's some things about Dad you may not know. He had a double promotion in elementary school. He excelled in that so much that teachers at junior high were encouraging him to be an artist. He made the Air Force baseball team play against the Yankees, Joe DiMaggio and ace pitcher Red Ruffin. And by the way, except for Dad, the entire team was made up of major and minor league baseball players. While in the Army Air Corps, as a reward for the exceptional job he had done, the general in charge of the base let my dad, along with his unit, use one of Hitler's yachts with its crew in full bar for the entire day in the Rhinebeck River. Dad was sitting in his office one day when a gentleman tapped on his door and asked if he could use his phone. He told him to go right ahead. And while he was on the call, he recognized him as Rocky Marciano, the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world. In around 1971, he was invited by the owner of the New England Patriots, called the Boston Patriots at that time, to become a partner with the team for just $25,000.
Wow.
Dad declined because, listen, I was saving for the college education for my children. This is a good one. Staff member, former Senator John F. Kennedy, approached Dad at the Ritz-Carlton in Boston and asked Dad to pay a bribe in order for Wiggins Airways to obtain an airline certificate. Dad refused to go along. Mohawk Airlines got the certificate instead. In Norwood, sometime around 1955, he was asked to run for town meeting member. He ran, he was elected, and was re-elected 3 years for 20 years until Dad moved to Florida. Now, this is a good one. Of course, you have to be of a certain age to appreciate this. 1964. The Beatles' private pilot met with Dad to organize a possible escape route to the Norwood Airport. Imagine the Beatles were invited to come to Norwood. After their Boston concert, they decided to take an alternative route. So his favorite cartoon is Tom and Jerry. His favorite snack is blueberries, more blueberries, and blueberry pie.
Oreo cookies.
That too.
Popsicles.
So after Dad's funeral, I summarized it in toast by using only 3 words that I believe portray Dad the best: integrity, greatness, and passion. And let me expand further on those virtues. First, so how did Dad's love of aviation start? As quoted from his book, while in junior high school, I started to build little model airplanes and gliders. They didn't have kits like they do today. I would save money from coke bottles and doing odd jobs. So I would scrape up enough money to afford the materials I needed. You have to use balsa wood and money to afford the materials I needed. So you have to use, so then we would cover them with materials that looked like tissue paper. I would then enter models into contests that were held in the Irving Street Armory in Boston. With gliders, you would have to toss them easily into the air currents inside the armory and would carry the glider up. I managed to win a couple prizes, and it was a lot of fun while I was doing it. This is how his love with airplanes got started. He never turned back. Dad was about to school. Dad really excelled in the world of aviation. At age 19, he was already teaching airplane mechanics. At age 22, while serving in the Army Air Corps in Germany, he assembled an entire fighter squadron that was so much beyond disrepair. The generals wrote these airplanes off, but later, when the commanding officer visited the tarmac, witnessed it with amazement of what Dad had done, Dad was recommended and awarded the prestigious Medal of Accommodation for only the 2nd time in military history. So at an early age, he already was becoming a legend in the world of aviation. Throughout his 50 years of general aviation maintenance, he demanded the most of people who worked for him. He held them to the highest standards. Owners would bring their airplanes from Norwood from the longest distance. Because of Dad's reputation for his level of detail and concern of safety, on his watch, Dad never had a single casualty and actually saved lives. And I'll tell you this one story. 1970, I remember I was working after high school at the Norwood Airport. At the end of the day, I went to find my dad in his office to go home. He was not to be found. One of the mechanics told me that Dad was up at the flight operations on the radio helping the airplane in trouble. It was December, so it was now very dark outside. Brand new Piper Navajo twin-engine aircraft couldn't make its landing gear to go down. When I entered the control center, there was Dad on multiple telephones, simultaneously with Logan Airport, Otis Air Force Base, the Piper Corporation, Lycoming Engine, and the fire department, as Dad tried desperately to find a solution to safely land the airplane. With only minutes remaining in fuel, with the start of a snowstorm, both Logan and Otis were already shutting down due to the weather, so there was no chance the airplane could be diverted to a safer, more equipped landing environment. The fate of these two men were now in my dad's hands. My father was making split, life-saving decisions. The backup hydraulic pump for the landing gear wasn't working, so we had the airplane do all kinds of aerobatic maneuvers to help release the landing gear. But with no luck, now they were almost out of fuel. My father decided to run the fuel tanks down to zero to minimize an explosion with an emergency landing. Telling the fathers to make a last-ditch effort to attempt a possible glide approach touchdown. The NOAA fire department was given the green light to form the runway. As police cars wind up directing their headlights to visual guided pilot. The experience reminded me of that blockbuster movie at the same moment in time called Airport. As the airplane circled around for its final approach, the engines cut while now gliding in total silence with a heavy blizzard with almost nearly zero visibility. The airplane pancaked, bounced, and then slid into the runway, spinning in a sea of foam. After the airplane skidded to a stop, both the pilot and co-pilots jumped out of the airplane immediately to safety. My father brought these two men miraculously home without a scratch. If one was ever looking for a father figure to look up to, here it was, my dad. Later, the Massachusetts FAA awarded Dad the highest honor for his long life pursuit of aviation safety, which was received in 1970. He was then later recommended for the National Award, only to be edged out by Neil Armstrong, having just landed on the moon the previous year. Through aviation, Dad knew many important people. One was Colin Chapman, the founder of the legendary Lotus Automobile Company. Historically, Chapman is considered one of the three greatest significant figures in the advancement of motor racing. Dad also got to know Jimmy Clark. Chapman's driver was the two-time world champion in Grand Prix racing who just won the Indy 500. When I was 11 years old, Dad was able to get me an autographed photo along with a personal letter from Clark. Remember, Ernie? To me, that was such a big deal, so Clark became instantly my hero. Later in my 20s, I hitchhiked to Watkins Glen to watch the American Grand Prix race, and Team Lotus was there. After the race, I spotted Colin Chapman walking across the grounds, occupied with reporters about 200 feet away. I simply shouted out, "Fred Valentine," hoping to get his attention. You have to realize he was like my childhood hero at that time, named Jimmy Clark. He immediately stopped in his tracks and turned around and asked, "Who said that?" I replied, "His son." Colin then responded, "Your father is a wonderful man, a real gentleman, a man of integrity." So, before Dad permanently moved to Norwood to Naples, the Lions Club, along with town officials, had an appreciation party for Dad in April of 1976. He was presented with a plaque from the town of Norwood that read, "Frederick R. Valentine, man of intelligence, integrity, complete dedication to the welfare of people of Norwood, an example of all to emulate." Signed, Norwood Board of Selectmen, April 1976. The school committee also presented Dad with an award that read, "Superlative family man, competent, industrious employee, citizen of excellence, Fred Valentine has continually extended himself in the service of his fellow man. In addition to his memberships in the organizations devoted to community betterment, he has given unselfishly the obvious time and talent to the young people of Norwood for many, many years. We make a matter of record this significant contribution to all the people of town of Norwood. In true sense, he is a leader within the community. Among his colleagues, the members of the Norwood School Committee, Superintendent of Schools, wish to express their appreciation to Fred Valentine for exemplary contribution and citizenship," signed by the school committee. Of all the many citations and awards my father received throughout his lifetime, these two awards meant the most to Dad. I'll close with this final story.
You sure?
Yes, I'm sure. In 1932, at the age of 10, Dad built a soapbox turkey car from scratch. He had no money, so he asked his neighbors to donate building materials, old carriage wheels, etc. He raced his car at Summit Downs in East Boston. He received a medal and a flashlight for winning his first race. When I was 10 years old, during our summer vacation in Florida, Dad found an article about the All-American Soapbox Derby while looking through a national graphic magazine. He showed it to me and told me about his experience as a young boy. He asked if I'd be interested, and I said yes. So for the next 3-4 years, I would design and construct a new race car from scratch each year, working most nights and weekends for 3 to 6 months. I can recall there was a lot of father and son significant bonding.
Daughter and father too.
Like
Don't forget.
like yelling and screaming,
Yes, I know.
doors slamming, tubes through. Sometimes Dad would threaten that I'm taking the entire car to the dump. The School of Hard Knocks had a whole new meaning, as my cousin Larry once commented. All of our dads would routinely perform the one-twosie on us. And Dad would always have those Robert Young's, Father Knows Best, encouraging words like, the older you get, the stupider you get. So, however, having said that, reflecting after these experiences, I believe this is the way he knew best how to teach me the tools that I would need to succeed later in life, like selective stubbornness, self-confidence, perseverance, do not make any excuses, problem solving, hard work, and work. The indispensable importance of one's integrity. From observing Dad's attention to detail in his job, my own philosophy would emerge, as in that it's the countless unseen details that are often the difference between mediocrity and the magnificent. Or as the similarly noted by the architect Mies van der Rohe, God is in the details. This, forever, would be my approach not only as an architect, but practically everything I would do in life. The certain events and influences that have made who I am today, no question Dad was the single most influence. Architecturally speaking, he was the mortar between the bricks of my success. So thank you, Dad, for all of what you taught me. No one could have done it better.
Oh.
Dad's life story, he ends with these final parting words of advice to the reader. Through the years, Dora and I had the happiest and most wonderful life. I knew the day that I married her would be that way. Life is precious. Make it the most of it. Enjoy life without abusing it. As we only here for a short time. Wait.
Oh, her. Well, I had like just what? 15 seconds left. Oh, well, I gotta book.
Champagne, we're doing a toast.
Yeah, we need Jenny. We're not there. Not really. She's got the oh, no. Everybody got their campaign? Yeah. Well, as usual, being the youngest of this, I'll have to follow. But I am shooting just for toast, so I'll make it free. Let's raise our glasses to a man who worked hard to get us the best he could afford. A man who taught us not to quit. A man who lived and worked for his wife and children. A man who lived unconditionally and without judgment. A man who loved us all until the day he died. Cheers to Dad and cheers to Mom for lives well lived. Oh. 3 seconds, that was good. That was good, Diane. Way to go! Yeah.
time to me. Thank you.
We all did. What do you mean?
So listen, I have one more thing we're going to do before we have lunch. What I've done, if you remember, I explained how my father got us started in aviation by building policy with airplanes. So what I've done is we have a bunch of little balsa wood airplanes that we have three youngest grandchildren, Nikki, Lisa, and Brett, with the aviation mechanics in order to make sure the airplane passes the airworthiness inspection. So they're going to make sure, what you're going to do is you're going to pull the wing out, and with ballpoint pen, you're going to write just a brief message and print your name on it. We're going to go down the terrace here. We're going to toss it onto the green lawn.
We're the three youngest.
So,
No. I'm younger than her.
you are? You want to do it all?
Brett is the youngest. What do you mean? Brett's the youngest. Next time. Brett is the youngest.
Sounds like your dad is the only one with date issues.
Brett's 19. He's the youngest. He's lazy.
I want you to tell you this, when I was first searching for these airplanes, I first bought some airplanes that came from China. And when I set them all up and tried to throw them, they went about 2 feet and they went down the ground. So I did buy the airplanes are going to be flying. Made in United States. And like a huge coincidence, it says Fred's Flyers on the wing. So, anyways, without any more time delay here, let's go ahead and Nikki, Lisa, and Brett pass out the airplanes and help them sign the sign on the bottom. And then we're going to go down the stairs here and we're going to toss these out in the green lawn. Also, one other short announcement is there's a bunch of 5x7 photos. I tried to make sure that there was a grandchild on each one side of it. You can take those with you. There's boxes to put in so you don't want to scratch. Paula and Andrew, you want that photograph? Yeah, just get
Here.
I'm gonna try to try it.
Here. Have to be Brent.
Yeah, I've been doing that. He is. He's folded from I rested my arm too. We're ready to go. I'll do the first one. You ready?
Yeah.
Don't do it so hard. Just kind of toss it out. You have to go out that way. The wind is going in there. Run. Don't take after your dad on
I will.
We have to retrieve it.
I'll get it, Steven. Friends, Mia, let them do it.
Still going.
Very cool.
You got that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Grandpa's favorite, still showing. Yes, redo. That's a redo. You almost took her head off. That was awesome. That was awesome.
He's gone for life.
Notice like where the fishing pole into Dad's neck.
Go! Somehow I think that was
the house in Albany. Carol, your turn.
We got many more of those.
That's early.
No, go ahead. No, you're the oldest.
Lloyd, over here.
I'm doing it where I want to do it.
I know.
I'm not going over.
Go, Carol. I know.
The wind's coming this way, so go in that corner and shoot it this way. Go over there by the water and shoot this way.
Are you listening to him? Do you want us to go?
Right there, it's good. Come this way now. Yeah.
I'll let her go.
That sucks.
That didn't work. One more time. Listen to my husband.
That really sucked. Why'd you do that?
All right. The cousins are up.
Go then. That's better. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, it's missing the rudder.
Nice.
It's missing the
So
rudder.
far, you are.
Yeah.
Very lightly. Facing toward the ground.
No.
No, it was off.
I want to assemble on the run.
Go ahead, Diane.
Dad, way to
Go retrieve your plane.
Can we do a group now?
Right.
Yeah.
Right there.
Nice. Nice, Linda. All right.
They seem to loop, so I don't know. You gotta go high and
Try it hard. They're all gonna hit Nick in the face, regardless. All right, you ready, Nick? Are we ready? I had him sign my name on it. Ready? 5, you Gianni. 3, 2, 1. Take off.
Stopped on it when I walked by.
We got one
I don't know
here.
the guy right here,
Yeah.
but I saw him do it.
He's got that. Wow, look at that guy.
What's up? Did I break something?